Greetings, respected viewers. This is George from Ireland. In this video I want to ask, whatever happened to Catalonia? You may remember over a year ago a referendum was held in Catalonia, that's a region of northwest Spain, and the Spanish government attempted to thwart this, to send the police in to grab the ballot boxes and so on. Nevertheless, it went ahead. The Supreme Court of Spain ruled that it was unlawful. So it would be somewhat flawed because not everybody got to vote. But anyway, the majority of ballots cast were for Catalonia to leave the Kingdom of Spain. Catalonia, well, it's got a distinctive identity. They've got their own Catalan language, which seems like a mélange of French and Spanish. I've only been to Catalonia once. I'm not conversant in that language. I'm told that its grammatical system is somewhat different from the other two. So I know people try to argue that it's a dialect of Spanish, and many Catalans are mortally offended by that notion. But you don't even need a language to be a separate nation, but there we are, or even a dialect. But there's certainly a sense of identity there. The Spanish constitution's gone a long way towards accommodating the collective individuality of the Catalans and saying that the nations of Spain, in which it lists Catalonia as well. So Spain is in that sense a community of communities. So they were independent a very long time ago. There were various kingdoms in Spain, and from 1492 they were united, not officially as one kingdom, but one crown wearing several, one head wearing several crowns. Only in about 1700 did Spain officially become a single realm. And in the late 19th century, early 20th century, there was a movement for Catalan independence. There was a Spanish Civil War in the late 1930s, in which most Catalans fought on the Republican side, that's the left-wing side. They weren't all leftists, but communism and anarchism were quite popular in Catalonia, the most industrialized and prosperous region of Spain. But anyway, mainly the Catalans were fighting for independence, and they were in coalition with other left-wingers for that cause. And after that, their identity was suppressed. They weren't allowed to display the Catalan flag. They weren't allowed to use the language in the public sphere, like in schools or universities, things like that. And even the Barcelona football team, Barca, became an expression of their national identity, often smuggling in flags, trying to wave them in the stadium and being arrested for that. So Spain democratized after 1975, and the Catalan independence movement gained traction in recent years. They've held 2 referenda and an election in recent years. In all of them, the separatists won. The separatists have this oxymoronic notion they can have independence within the European Union. They wouldn't automatically be allowed into the EU. They were buoyed up by the rising strength of the Scottish National Party in the United Kingdom. Obviously, the SNP narrowly failed in 2014 to break up the UK. So the thing is, the United Kingdom was pledged to respect the result of that referendum in Caledonia. Had it happened, would they have done so? It's a fascinating question, and imponderable. You see how the Euro-fanatic elite in the United Kingdom is hell-bent on thwarting the will of the people in the United Kingdom to leave the EU. But that's by the by. So the Spanish government has kicked this whole thing down the road. They tried to arrest some Catalan politicians, indeed succeeded in arresting them. Those who'd held this vote, some of them fled to other EU countries like Belgium, but were tracked down and arrested, as though holding a vote really was dangerous. Surely democracy should welcome votes. So there are some ardent nationalists who are irreconcilable to the notion of remaining within the Kingdom of Spain. If the EU unites us all, largely laws are based on regulations, directives, decisions from the European Union, from its institutions in Strasbourg and Brussels, from the European Court of Justice in Luxembourg. Therefore, whether Catalonia is within or without Spain should make precious little difference. So why be so het up about it? And I've heard that's one of the splendiferous things about the European Union, is we can get above this petty nationalistic particularism, like the Irish Troubles. What does it matter whether the flag above us is green, white and orange, or red, white and blue? We're all part of the European Union. It makes no odds whether you're in the UK or Irish Republic. I think that argument is somewhat specious. But again, I digress. So some hardline nationalists will never be reconciled to remaining within Spain. There are others who are soft nationalists, or kind of instrumental nationalists, want to leave Spain not on principle, but what they think it will give them. And these goodies, if more prosperity, for instance, could be delivered to them by staying within Spain, then they could be won over. But the Spanish government has just kicked the whole thing down the road, and has countered on the whole thing dying down. It seems to have worked. Who now talks about Catalan independence? Only quite fanatical separatists. So some people are weak-willed, as hardened nationalists may call them. These callow sort will soon give up, especially if they're offered more swill by Madrid. So separatism may be running out of steam. And I suspect the EU would apply the same deal to Brexit, the same notion. And the EU set its face like flint against separatism in Catalonia, even though they were Europhile separatists. Because if we do that, then the Basque country in Spain and France might want to break away, or the La Lega Nord in northern Italy might want to split up Italy, and every member state would be mired in national controversies. You know, identity and ethnicity is multi-layered. It's not straightforward, and the EU would constantly be preoccupied with these squabbles. And then it doesn't, not far to go from there, say, well, why don't we leave the EU? That's supranationalism, that's somehow smothering our national identity. We can't do things our own way. I'm not quite sure what the Catalans want to do differently from what they're having now, because their language has got co-equal status. By no means everybody in Catalonia is Catalan. They moved in from other parts of Spain, other parts of the world. The Prime Minister of Catalonia is married to a Romanian, for instance. He's not an ethno-nationalist, let's be fair to him. I don't think he could be accused of being racist. And some very minor force was used by the Spanish police, occasionally having to hold on to people. And there were these blood-curdling stories of women dragged out by the hair from polling stations. I don't know if that ever happened, but I don't think there was excessive force. Nobody was killed. Not a single person was even seriously injured. I wouldn't want that. So the whole issue does appear to be going away. It may flare up again, and that's, I suppose, the way they think they do it. They say, no, no, absolutely no, you're not getting it. So much for the EU being about democracy. It seems to be the core mythology of the EU is always enshrined in these documents, the European Convention of Human Rights and all the rest of it, the Treaty of Lisbon and many other preambles to various EU treaties about democracy is the central pillar of the EU. But when there's a vote that goes the way they don't want, it doesn't count. Now, I know there isn't necessarily a right to secede. Just because a certain group of people wish to break away from a larger entity, they shouldn't always be allowed to. I would mildly prefer if Catalonia remained part of Spain. I tend to have a penchant for centripetal forces, not centrifugal forces. Brexit would be an exception. Come on to my identity. My identity is British, primarily, for the whole British Isles, for Ireland and Great Britain. But that's by the by. I belong to both islands, all right, chiefly the one I was born on, the one my ancestors have inhabited for centuries, or millennia, indeed, Ireland. So that's that. Because I'm aware that I'm a Corkonian from the city, Cork man from the county, Munster man from the province, Irish from Ireland, from the Republic of Ireland, to look at that nation state, from the British Isles, from the European Union, from the Europe, from the world. So there are many layers, but which layer of your identity matters most to you? To me, I suppose it's being British, belonging to Ireland and Great Britain. For other people, it would be only Ireland, completely reject the idea of British. For some people, it would be the European Union matter most. Wouldn't deny that they're Irish in my case, but they would say EU matters more to them. They're European nationalists. So it's a scintillating quandary for Euro-nationalists who happen to be Catalan nationalists as well. Does the EU matter more to you, or Catalonia, or what? And curiously, that level in the middle, Spain, doesn't matter to you. Indeed, you're hostile to it. So people tell me that the United Kingdom was an artificial country. Well, countries are necessarily artificial as they are created by human artifice. They are not drawn with God's finger, whatever some hoary nationalist mythology may say. It's they are all made by people, and we can unmake them as well. So, do I want them to succeed? Not really. It would discomfort the EU a bit, might weaken their hand in the Brexit negotiations, but we shall see. Perhaps the whole thing will disappear for a while. I think that's more likely, actually. But maybe just the media's got bored of it. There's certain fatigue, public attention spans about a month, and we moved on to other stories. So that's that. The EU is playing the same game with Brexit, and they'll probably get their way on that one.